Hello, and welcome back to our adventure of the Patriarchs, going through the Dead Sea Scrolls, whereby we're rediscovering the faith of our fathers. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the book of Joseph, the book of Joseph. And as always, we're going to be seeking to align it with our measuring stick, the canon. That's all canon speaks to is a measuring stick. The Greek representation of the word canon simply means a measuring stick, as well as the Greek representation of the word canon means a measuring stick. So that's what we're going to be seeking to do as always. And today, as aforementioned, we're speaking about Joseph concerning sobriety. And so we just jump right in. It reads, it says, the record of the testament of Joseph. When he was about to die, he called his sons and his brothers together and said to them, our children and brothers, listen to Joseph, the beloved of Israel, your father. And this is, something that's a bit different that we didn't see in the other accounts. Is he not only called his progeny, but he also called his brothers. He continues on. He says, I have seen in my life envy and death, and I have not wondered in the truth of the Adonai. My brothers hated me, but the Adonai loved me. They wished me dead, but the Elohim of my fathers guarded me. They threw me in a pit, but the Most High brought me back up. I was sold for a slave, but the Adonai set me free. I was taken into captivity, but his strong hand comforted me. When I was in hunger, the Adonai himself nourished me. When I was sick alone, Elohim was with me. When I was in prison, the Savior showed me favor and released me. Amid slanders, he rescued me and exalted me above all envy and guile. Now, if we just think about this for a minute, with the brethren being present, this would have had to be in kind of kind of an awkward situation for them sitting there, listening to Joseph speak the truth concerning how they felt about him, and that's sometimes that's what it takes. Sometimes, um, people need to have their hearts pricked in that manner so that they can see what they've done, so that they won't repeat the same mistakes. Continuing on, he also speaks of Potiphar. He says, Potiphar, the chief cook of Pharaoh, entrusted me his house, and I struggled against a shameless woman, urging me to transgress with her. But the Elohim of Israel, my father, guarded me from the burning flame. I was cast into prison, beaten, and mocked. Okay, now he says that he, you know, um, was over Potiphar's house, that he was entrusted, that Potiphar entrusted him to his house. So we're going to take a look at our measuring stick and see how this aligns, with what we're given in our measuring stick. In Genesis chapter 39, verses 1 through 7, it reads, and Joseph was brought down to Mitzraim, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, brought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which he had brought down thither. Now, we see a small discrepancy here, emphasis discrepancy, but we see Potiphar being described as the chief cook of Pharaoh in Joseph's account, but we see in our account in Genesis, Potiphar is an officer of Pharaoh and a captain of the guard. Now, maybe there's a way that he could have been, the chief cook and a captain of the guard. I don't know, but I just figured out I'd point that out. Genesis 39:2. And Yahuwah was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian, on Mitzraim. And his master saw that Yahuwah was with him, and that Yahuwah made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Joseph found grace in his sight and served him, and he made him overseer over his house and all that he had put into his hand. Now we're going to learn in the story of Joseph, how he came to recognize that Yahuwah was with Joseph, and how he caused everything that was in his hand to prosper. So stay tuned for that. Verse 5, and it came to pass from the time that he made him overseer of in his house and over all that he had, Yahuwah blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake, and the blessing of Yahuwah was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he knew not aught. He had saved the bread which he did eat. And Joseph was a goodly person and well favored. And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, "Lie with me." Now, this is the woman that kept urging him to transgress that Joseph was speaking of in his account. He says, "Shameless woman urging me to transgress with her." And this woman was actually Potiphar's wife. It was his master's wife, so it was also his master. You know, what a horrible position to be in, whereby you're the head of someone's house and the woman of the house is trying to seduce you. You know, that is a real precarious situation to be in right there. But he also continues, he says, "But the Adonai granted me to find pity in the sight of the keeper of the prison, for he will no wise forsake those who fear him. Neither darkness nor bonds nor tribulations nor necessities, for Elohim is not a man. He cannot be ashamed, afraid, weak, or thrust aside." And so here it is, because he didn't want to be with her, she would have him in prison, and Adonai gave him pity in the sight of the keeper. And our measuring stick aligns with this in Genesis 39:21. It reads, "But Yahuwah was with Joseph and showed him mercy and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison." So he sent him to prison, and he got favor there, And Joseph continues on to say, "In every situation, he is there to comfort. He only departs for a little while to try your soul. In 10 temptations, he showed me approved. In all of them, I endured. For the endurance is a mighty charm, and the patience gives many good things." And I thought this was really interesting because he says he only departs for a little while to try your soul. And, when I think about the nation of Israel, when they came out of Mitzraim and they were in the wilderness, Yah was trying them in that wilderness. We read in Exodus 17:6 and 7, it says, "Behold, I will stand before thee there upon the rock in Horeb, and thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it, that the people may drink." And Moshe did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. And he called the name of the place Massa and Meribah, because of the chiding of the children of Israel, and because they tempted Yahuwah, saying, "Is Yahuwah among us or not?" See, and that's one of the things that we have to realize as followers of Mashiach and followers of Yahuwah Elohim, is that, yes, he's going to leave us at times to try our souls. And when you think about the story of Israel in the wilderness, Yah tried them 10 times in the wilderness, but each of the 10 times they failed. And the last time, he cursed them to die in the wilderness. Because he had tried them 10 times and they had failed 10 times. So let us take learn a lesson from that page of history from the earlier Israelites, and not repeat that fatal error, and realize that even though it may seem like Yah isn't with us, he's with us. Even though he may leave us for a little while, he's just testing us. He's just proving us. I see many of the saints, as soon as something happened, they just fall to pieces, or Yah, he may leave from out their life for a moment, and they just fall to pieces. You know, they don't trust that he's still there, that he's still watching over them, even though he may not feel as close. He still watches over us, and if we need him, he will be there. He will get there in the nick of time. You can always trust him. He's always faithful. Even in the bottom of the ninth inning with 2 strikes, he will see you through. Now, they wondered, was Yahuwah among them or not? And in Psalms 81:7, we learn it says, "Thou callest in trouble, and I delivered thee. I answered thee in the secret place of thunder. I proved thee at the waters of Meribah." Selah. So we see that this incident in Meribah was just one of those 10 trials that he was putting them through. If he put Joseph through 10 trials, he put Israel through 10 trials. Maybe he'll put us through 10 trials throughout our lifetime as well. Will we fail as Israel did, or will we be approved as Joseph was? Selah. Joseph continues. He says, "How often did the Egyptian women, the Egyptian threaten me with death? Now often did give me over to punishment, and then call me back and threaten me when I would not company with her. She said to me, you will lord over me and all that is mine, if you will give yourself unto me, and you will be as our master. Therefore, I remembered the words of the fathers of my father Yaakov, and I entered into my chamber and prayed unto the Adonai. I fasted in those 7 years. I appeared to my master as one living delicately, for they that fast for Elohim's sake receive beauty of face. If one gave me wine, I drank it not. I fasted for 3 days and took my food and gave it to the poor and sick." Now we see this is something that Yah says he desires in Yeshayahu 58. He speaks of, when you fast, take your food and give it to the poor and sick, and so that's a Yahsum practice. And this is what Joseph was doing. And we see, like I say in Yeshayahu 58, Yah says this is something that's pleasing to him. He also continues, he says, "I sought the Adonai early and wept for the Egyptian woman of Memphis, for she troubled me unceasingly. And at night she came to me under the pretense of visiting me. At first, because she had no male child, she feigned to count me as a son. I prayed unto the Adonai, and she bare a male child. Therefore, for a time she embraced me as a son, and I knew it not. Last of all, she sought to draw me into fornication. When I perceived it, I sorrowed even unto death. When she had gone out, I came to myself, and I lamented for her many days, because I saw her guile and deceit. I declared unto her the words of the Most High, if perhaps she returned from her evil lust." For our boy Joseph, he was going through something. What a horrible situation to be in. He was really going through something with Potiphar's wife. He continues on, he says, "How often she fawned upon me with words as a holy man, and with guile in her talk, praising my chastity before her husband, while desiring to destroy me when we were alone. She lauded me openly as chaste, and in secret she said unto me, do not be afraid of my husband, for he is convinced you are chaste. So that even should one tell him concerning us, he would never believe it. For all these things I lay upon the ground in sackcloth, and I besought Elohim that the Adonai should deliver me from the Egyptian. When she prevailed nothing, she came again to me under the plea of instruction, and that she might know the word of the Adonai. She said unto me, if you want me to abandon my idols, just tell me, and I will persuade my husband to depart from his idols, and we will walk in the law of your Adonai. I said unto her, the Adonai does not want those who reverence him to live in uncleanness, or does he take pleasure in those who commit adultery? She held her peace, longing to accomplish her evil desire. I gave myself yet more to fasting and prayer, and that the Adonai should deliver me from her. He continues, under the threat of murder. At another time she said unto me, if you will not commit adultery, I will kill my husband, so I can lawfully take you to be my husband. When I heard this, I rent my garment and said, woman, reverence the Adonai and do not this evil deed, lest you be utterly destroyed, for I will declare your ungodly thought unto all men. She therefore, being afraid, begged me not to tell her wickedness to anyone. She departed, soothing me with gifts and sending to me every delight of the sons of men. He continues, she sent me food sprinkled with enchantments. When the eunuch who brought it came, I looked up and beheld a terrible man giving me with the dish a sword. And I perceived that her scheme was the deception of my soul. When he had gone out, I wept, nor did I eat any of her food. After one day she came to me and observed the food and said unto me, what is this? Why have you not eaten the food? I said unto her, it is because you have filled it with death. How said you, I come not near to idols, but to draw to the Adonai alone? Now therefore know that the Elohim of my father has revealed your wickedness to me by an angel, and I have kept it to convict you, if perhaps you may see it and repent, but that you may learn that the wickedness of the ungodly has no power over those that reverence Elohim in chastity. I took it and I ate it before her, saying, the Elohim of my fathers and the angel of Abraham will be with me. She fell upon her face at my feet and wept, and I raised her up and admonished her, and she promised not to do this iniquity again. But because her heart was set upon me to commit lewdness, she sighed, and her countenance fell. When her husband saw her, he said unto her, why is your countenance fallen? She said, I have a heartache, and my spirit is grieved. So he comforted her, and then she rushed in to me while her husband was right outside, and said unto me, I will hand myself or cast myself into a well or over a cliff if you do not consent to me. When I saw the spirit of Belial was troubling her, I prayed unto the Adonai and said unto her, why are you troubled, disturbed, and blinded in sins? Remember that if you kill yourself, Satan, your husband's concubine, your rival, will beat your children and will erase all memory of you. She said unto me, then you do love me. This alone is sufficient for me, that you care for my life and my children. I have an expectation that I will enjoy my desire. She did not realize that it was because of my Elohim. I said this, not because of her. If anyone falls into the passion of a wicked desire, they become enslaved by it. She was so enslaved by her desire that she mistook any kind word from me as a sign that her wicked desire might soon be fulfilled. And this is so true. We see this now today, and it's a sad case. You cannot make someone want to be with you. If they don't want to be with you, you have to learn to let go. All right, so Joseph is continually praying to be delivered from his wicked mistress, his not mistress, but his wicked madam, if you would, or master's wife. He continues on. He says, I declare unto you, my children, that it was about the 6th hour when she departed from me, and I knelt before Adonai all that day, continued all that night. About dawn, I rose up weeping and praying for release from the Egyptian. At last, then she laid hold of my garments, forcibly dragging me to have an affair with her. When therefore I saw that in her madness she was forcibly holding my garments, I fled away naked. She falsely accused me to her husband, and the Egyptian cast me into the prison in his house. The next day he had me scourged and sent to the prison house. When therefore I was in fetters, the Egyptian woman fell sick from her vexation. And again, all throughout these patriarchs, the testaments of these patriarchs, we see very prominently this concept being ushered and passed on from each of the sons unto their progeny. and the concept of sin bringing about sickness and disease. And here we see where Joseph is no different. He says, when therefore I was in fetters, the Egyptian woman fell sick from her vexation, you know, because of her sins. He also continues, he says, I sang praises unto the Adonai while I was in the abode of darkness, and with glad voice rejoiced and glorified my Elohim, only because by a pretext I had been rid of the Egyptian woman. So even though he was in prison and he was in darkness, he was happy. And with a glad voice, he rejoiced and glorified Elohim because he had answered his prayer. He truly did, deliver him from the Egyptian woman, even though it was into a prison. He was happy to be in the prison rather than to be in that situation with his master and his master's wife. And I could totally see how that could happen, how he could really find joy, in being in prison outside of being in that situation. That is a very perplexing and had to be a very, very, very oppressive situation. Yosef continues, he says, how often she has sent unto me, saying, consent to fulfill my desire, and I will release you from your bonds and free you from the darkness of the prison. Not even in thoughts did I incline unto her. That's what I'm talking about. Yosef said he didn't even think about it. It wasn't even in his thoughts. And saints, that's what we have to do. We have to learn to control our thoughts. We have to learn that when the enemy shoot these negative thoughts into your hearts and minds, you have to learn to rebuke it in the name of Yahshua and kick it out. Kick it out, and just as soon as it come in, do not let it fester. Do not let it fester. As soon as an unclean thought come into your mind, you rebuke it and kick it out, and you keep it moving. And if he sent another one, you do likewise, and you continue to do so until he stops, because those who resist the devil, he will flee from them. He also continues, he says, for Elohim loves those who in a den of darkness fast with chastity rather than those who in secret chambers live delicately without restraint. Hallelujah. Whosoever lies in chastity and desires also glory. And if the Most High knows that it is expedient for him, he bestows this also upon him, even as upon me. How often, though, when she was sick, did she come down to me at odd times and listen to my voice as I prayed? When I heard her groanings, I held my peace. For when I was in her house, she used to bare her arms, breast, and legs, so I might fall before her. For she was very beautiful, splendidly adorned for my deception. The Adonai guarded me from her devices. Hallelujah. Man, Potiphar's wife or something else, wasn't she? Joseph continues, he says, you see, my children, how great things come through patience and with prayer and fasting. If you therefore practice sobriety and purity and patience and humility of heart, the Adonai will dwell among you because he loves sobriety. Wherever the Most High dwells, even though a man falls into envy, slavery, or slander, the Adonai who dwells in him for his sobriety's sake not only delivers him from evil, but also exalts and glorifies him even as me. For in every man, the man is guarded. For in every way, the man is guarded, whether in deed or in word or in thought. My brothers, know how my father loved me, and I was not exalted in my heart. Although I was a child, I had the fear of Elohim in my heart. Although I was a child, I had the fear of Elohim in my thoughts. For I knew that all things should pass away, and I kept myself within bounds, and I honored my brothers. Through fear of them, I held my peace when I was sold and revealed not my family to the Ishmaelites, that I was the son of Jacob, a great and mighty man. Joseph continues concerning the fear of Elohim. Do you not also therefore have the fear of Elohim in your works and honor your family? For everyone who follow the law of Adonai will be loved by him. When I come to the Endocopite and with the Ishmaelites, they asked me, and I said that I was a slave from their house and that I might not put my brothers to shame. The eldest of them said unto me, You are not a slave, even your appearance shows that. He threatened to kill me, but I said that I was their slave. Now when he came to Mitzraim, they strove concerning me, which of them would buy me and take me. Therefore it seemed good to all that I should remain in Mitzraim with a merchant of their trade until they should return bringing merchandise. The Adonai gave me favor in the eyes of the merchant, and he entrusted to me his house. The Adonai blessed him because of me and increased him in silver and gold, and I was with him 3 months and 5 days. You know, so we see that this was likewise with Yaakov. You know, when Yaakov with Laban, Yah blessed Laban, and his household grew abundantly. You know, this is something that you'll find congruent with Yah's people. You know, Yah will, cause a business or a person to prosper because of his people. But imagine if his people worked for his people. Imagine if his people worked for themselves, how he will prosper them. Selah. He also continues on concerning Elohim and your reputation. He says, about the time of the Memphian wife of Potiphar passed by with great pomp. About that time, the Memphian wife of Potiphar passed by with great pomp and cast her eyes upon me because her eunuchs told her concerning me. She told her husband concerning the merchant that he had become rich by means of a young Hebrew, saying that they say that men have indeed stolen him out of the land of Canaan. Now therefore execute judgment with him and take away the youth to be your steward. So the Elohim of the Hebrews will bless you, for the grace from heaven is upon you. So they kind of, she was kind of viewing them as the goose that laid the golden eggs. He continues on. Potiphar was persuaded by her words and commanded the merchant to be brought and said unto him, What is this that I hear, that you steal people out of the land of the Hebrews and sell them for slaves? The merchant therefore fell upon his face and besought him, saying, I beseech you, my lord, I know not what you say. He said, From where then is your Hebrew servant? He said, The Ishmaelites entrusted me with him until they should return. He believed him not, but commanded him to be stripped and beaten. When he persisted, Potiphar said, Let the youth be brought. When I was brought in, I did obedience to the chief of the eunuchs, for he was third in rank to Pharaoh, being chief of all the eunuchs and having wives and children and concubines. He took me apart from him and said unto me, Are you a slave or free? I said, A slave. He said unto me, Whose slave are you? I said unto him, The Ishmaelites. Again he said unto me, How did you become their slave? I said, They brought me out of the land of Canaan. But he did not believe me. He said, You lie, and commanded me to be stripped and beaten. He also continues. Now the Memphian woman was looking through a window while I was being beaten. She sent unto her husband, saying, Your judgment is unjust, for you punish a free man who has been stolen as if he was a transgressor. When I gave no other answer, though I was beaten, he commanded that I should be kept in guard until, said he, the owners of the boy should come. His wife said unto him, Why do you detain in captivity this noble child, who ought rather to be set in liberty and wait upon you? For she wished to see me in desire of sin, but I was ignorant concerning these things. Then he said to his wife, It is not the custom of Mitzraim to take away that which belongs to others before proof is given. This he said concerning the merchant, and concerning me, that I must be in prison. Now after 24 days, the Ishmaelites came. Having heard that Yaakov, my father, was mourning for me, they said to me, Why did you say that you were a slave? We have learned that you are the son of a mighty man in the land of Canaan, and your father grieves for you in sackcloth. I would have wept again, but I restrained myself that I should not put my brothers to shame. I said, I do not know. I am a slave. Then they took counsel to sell me so that I would not be found in their hands. For they feared Yaakov, lest he would work upon them a deadly vengeance. For it had been heard that he was mighty with the Adonai and with men. Then the merchant said, release me from the judgment of Potiphar. They therefore came and asked for me, saying, he was bought by us with money, and he sent us away. Now the Memphian woman pointed me out to her husband that he should buy before I hear, she said, that they are selling him. She sent a eunuch to the Ishmaelites and asked him to sell me. And since he was not willing to traffic with them, he made known to his mistress that they asked a large price for their slave. She sent another eunuch saying, even if they demand 2 mina of gold, do not spare the gold, only buy the boy and bring him here. He gave him 80 pieces of gold for me and told his mistress that 100 had been given for him. When I saw it, I held my peace that the eunuch should not be punished. My children, you see what great things I endured, that I should not put my brothers to shame. Do you also love one another and with patience hide one another's faults? For Elohim delights in the unity of families and in the purpose of a heart approved unto love. And this is something to really take to heart, for Yah does delight in the unity of families. And it's, we see families getting torn apart, day in and day out over the most frivolous of things. And it's really, really, really sad to see. And some of, folks' most fierce angry enemies are their actual family. And this is sad. So it doesn't make it hard to see how, when Yahshua says your enemies will be those of your very own household, I can definitely see that happening. It makes me think of Proverbs 11:13, which says, a talebearer revealeth secrets, but he that is of a faithful ruach concealeth the matter. Just because someone has done wrong doesn't mean that that's a, that you have to tell it. Some people think, just because they know something, they have to tell it, but here scripture is teaching us a talebearer reveals secrets, but he that is of a faithful ruach concealeth the matter. Learn to keep your mouth shut. Learn, saints, not to go spreading around everything you know. Just because you know something, that isn't a license to go tell it to everyone. Have some restraint. Also consider Proverbs 12:23. It says, a prudent man concealeth knowledge, but the heart of fools proclaimeth foolishness. If someone does something foolish, again, that's not a license for you to go and broadcast it, all over town or all over the community. Sometimes it'll do you well to just keep it to yourself, especially if the person, is repentful, have repented and converted from their wicked way. Let's continue on with Joseph. He says, when my brothers came into Mitzraim and learned that I returned their money unto them and did not accuse them, instead I comforted them after the death of Jacob. I loved them all the more, and everything that he commanded I did very abundantly. Then they marveled, for I did not allow them to be afflicted, even to the smallest matter, and all that was in my hand I gave to them. So hereby we see that Joseph loved his family, and even though they were wrong, he still looked out for them. He loved his enemies, you could say. He continues on, he says, their children were my children were as their servants. Their life was my life, all their sufferings were my suffering, and all their sickness was my infirmity. My land was their land, my counsel, their counsel, and I did not exalt myself among them in arrogance because of my worldly glory, but I was among them as one of the least. And this really speaks to the heart of Joseph and why Yah exalted him the way he did. I can't read these passages, this passage without thinking of my Mashiach, Yahushua, and what he said in Mark 10:42 through 45. He said, says, but Yahushua called them to him and saith unto him, ye know that they which are accounted to rule over the Gentiles exercise lordship over them, and their great ones exercise authority upon them. But so shall it not be among you, speaking about his ecclesia. But whosoever will be great among you shall be your minister, and whosoever of you will be chiefest shall be servant of all. For even the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister. And he gave his life a ransom for many. And so we see that Joseph was truly, a type of our Mashiach Yahushua in many, many ways. And this testament of Joseph just shows us, even a plethora of more ways in which he was like unto Mashiach, and it's a beautiful to learn of this extra information to see that correlation. He continues on. He says, if you walk in the commandments of the Adonai, my children, he will exalt you there and bless you with good things forever and ever. If anyone seeks to do evil to you, pray for him, and he will be redeemed of Adonai from all evil. And, this also reminds me of something Yahshua said. Let's take a look at Matthew chapter 5, verses 44 through 48, which aligns with this concept that Joseph is saying beautifully. It says, but I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use and persecute you. This is what Joseph did for his brethren. Even though, they did him wrong, he prayed for them, and he loved them, and he treated them righteously, even though they despitefully used him, in all actuality. Yeshua goes on to say, that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven, for he maketh his sun arise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and on the unjust. And if you love them which love you, what reward have you? Do not even the publicans do the same? And if you salute your brethren only, what do ye more than others? Do not even the publicans so? Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. So this is what Joseph lived out in his life, even before Yahshua's commandments were given, because it was in his heart. This was the mindset that he had. Selah. He also continues on. He says, you see that through the patience I took a wife, even the daughter of my master, 100 talents of gold were given me with her, for the Adonai made them to serve me. He gave me also beauty as a flower above the beautiful ones of Israel. He preserved me to old age and strengthened in beauty, because I was like in all things to Yahweh. Here also, my children, the visions which I saw. There were 12 deer feeding, and the 9 were divided and scattered in the land, likewise also the 3. And so here it is, we see that Joseph actually had a vision concerning what would come of Israel later, how they would be divided, and truly this came to pass. So this was a vision, prophecy, if you would, that actually came to pass. He continues on. He says, I saw from Yahudah was born a virgin wearing a linen garment, and from her went forth a lamb without spot. And on his left hand there was a lion, and all the beasts rushed against him, and the lamb overcame them, destroyed them, and trampled them underfoot. Hallelujah. He had a vision about the Mashiach, the Lamb of Elohim, and how he would come from Yahudah, from a virgin, and this aligns with Yeshayahu 7:14. Says, therefore the Adonai himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Hallelujah. He also continues, he says, because of him the angels, men, and all the earth rejoice. These things will take place in their season in the last days. Therefore, my children, observe the commandments of the Adonai and honor Yahudah and Levi. from them will arise, from them will rise unto you the Lamb of Elohim by grace, saving all the Gentiles and Israel. For his kingdom is an everlasting kingdom which will not be shaken. But my kingdom among you will come to an end as a watcher's hammock, which after the summer will not appear. And so here it is, he must have had some premonition. Oh, well, he was ruling right then, but he was saying that, his kingdom would come to an end, and for them to follow Yahudah and Levi, the kingship and the priesthood of Elohim. And of course, this aligns with the Brit Kadashah, the New Testament scriptures. Yochanan 1:36, and looking upon Yahushua as he walked, he said, "Behold, the Lamb of Elohim." And so, the virgin did bring forth a lamb. And then finally, Joseph speaks concerning his death. He says, "I know that after my death, the Mitzraim will afflict you, but Elohim will undertake your cause and bring you into that which he promised to your fathers, but carry my bones up with you." And this aligns with our canon, our measuring stick in Genesis 50, verses 24 and 25. It says, "And Joseph said unto his brethren, I die, and my Elohim will surely visit you and bring you out of this land unto the land which he sware to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. And Joseph took an oath of the children of Israel, saying, Elohim will surely visit you, and ye shall carry up my bones from hence." And Joseph said, "For when my bones were taken up, the Adonai will be with you. For when my bones are taken up, the Adonai will be with you in light, and Belial will be darkness with the Egyptians. Carry up Zilpah, your mother, and lay her near Bilhah by the hippodrome, by the side of Rachel." So we see a prophecy concerning when his bones are taken up, the Adonai will be with them in light, and Belial will be in darkness of the Egyptians. And this did actually happen. Our canon bear witness to it. In Exodus 14, 19, and 20, it says, "And the angel of Elohim, which went before the camp of Israel, removed and went behind them, and the pillar of the cloud went before their face and stood behind them. And it came between the camp of the Egyptians, or the Mitzraim, and the camp of Israel. And it was a cloud and darkness to them, but it gave light by night to these, so that one came not near the other all the night." So hallelujah, we see that this actually came to pass, and they actually did carry his bones, into the land of Canaan. And he also closes with this. He says, "When he had said these things, he stretched out his feet and slept a long sleep. All Israel and Mitzrayim mourned him with a great lamentation, for he felt for the Egyptians even as his own family, and showed them kindness, aiding them in every work, counsel, and matter." And our canon aligns. It says in Genesis 50:26, "So Joseph died, being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Mitzrayim," something that was only reserved for men of great status, even pharaohs and kings. And so they treated Joseph in like manner, because they did love him and honored him. And so that is the testament of Joseph. That's all I have for you for today. Yivareka by Yishmareka, Yahuwah Panai Veleka Vehi Kaneka Yisa, Yahuwah Panai Veleka La Saim La Kashalom. May Yahuwah bless thee and keep thee. May Yahuwah lift up his face upon thee and be gracious unto thee. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon thee and be gracious unto thee. And may he put his name upon thee, and you will be blessed. Hallelujah. All right, to be continued. Till next time.